Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMtrading. Today's December 30th, 2019, and today is Monday morning. So looking at the major economic events today, only one event coming out of the United States. It's a Chicago PMI number coming out at 4:45 South African time. It is an important inflationary number that's coming out, so you do want to know it's coming out. Now, looking at the markets, we're watching the currencies. The euro pushing higher, okay, changing kind of character to becoming much stronger versus the USD, while the South African rand retraces to levels that we haven't seen in quite some time versus the US dollar, gaining versus the US dollar. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Now, looking at the indices, Dow Jones makes new highs once again, but it's just grinding it higher. It's not making major moves higher, okay, which is very reminiscent of a market expansion. Okay, now looking at the commodities, gold continues higher, breaking that 1513 resistance level, while oil still remains strong. Okay, broke above it, but hasn't really rallied further. Okay, so the question is what it's going to do next. That's the but there. Now, lastly, looking at stocks, Intel hit $60 a share. Okay, hasn't been at these levels for quite some time, but let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we're going to jump here into the Euro USD first at a 4-hour chart, and you can see we hit this support level last week, and this is really unexpected. Okay, this massive rally that we saw here, gaining about 120 pips from 110.80ish level up to 112ish level, is about 120 pips, that is. Okay, and we are at that previous resistance, and we haven't gone in such a short period of time, okay, this many pips in quite some time. Let's look at a daily chart just to give us a perspective of it. The last time we hit it was in October, where we've been kind of really very quiet of late in the currency markets, and you can see we're finally breaking that 1170-ish level, okay, that resistance level. Now we're hitting this second resistance level, this 120.08-ish level, okay, that is a minor resistance right here. So if it does retrace here, it could retrace back to this 111.70-ish level, you know, for a future further rally on the upside. Okay, but this is definitely changing character. Number two, it's making this upwards momentum trend line, as you could see here, 1, 2, and then if it does retrace back into this area, I would consider it something as a bona fide upwards trend. Okay, however, look at the GBP versus the euro. The GBP also bounced 120 pips, but the GBP, remember, is much more volatile than the euro. Okay, so I would have expected the GBP to actually jump to maybe 132.300-ish level, okay, instead of this 131.20, okay, which is about 120, 130 pips as well on the upside versus the dollar. Okay, now jumping into the rand, this is something very interesting as we've seen it actually retrace. Now we're looking at a weekly chart here, and remember, this is my Fibonacci that I've set up from last year. Okay, not always can you trade the ZAR, but sometimes it really gives you that opportunity, especially when you get into multi-time frame technical analysis, where it really gives you that bona fide either buy or sell. Okay, now we are sitting on this 114-ish level right here at support. Okay, if it does break this level, then sure enough, it may still, you know, retrace down to this 1360-ish level and then 13-ish level. Now remember, 2 years ago we hit this area. Okay, this was after the elections of the ANC and changing previous President Zuma from office. Okay, and the market's getting so much stronger in the, you know, South African markets, because there was some anticipation that we'd actually, you know, do better as an economy there. All right, now, so this is affecting the markets. As you can see here, we're at the support line versus the USD. We haven't been at this area. We've even hit 1544, which is really weak versus the dollar. Okay, so this massive retracement here from 1544 down to 14ish level is very significant. Okay, so especially if we break this, might not happen today, might not happen this week, but it's something to keep on your radar for a possible trade. If it does continue to strengthen versus the dollar, I would buy rand. Okay, and now jumping into the commodities. All right, this is gold. Gold hit 1513 last week and just breaking above it. All right, it was previously at 1518 this morning, and now just shedding some of its gains to 1514. Now 1513 is a resistance area. Okay, so if it does retrace at these areas, it's very natural. Now, I want to emphasize the fact that it is coming to the end of the year, so some of these fund managers are pushing some of the symbols higher as we're going into the end of the year. They want to show in their books that they made their returns that they said that they would make. And sure enough, this is very reminiscent and very characteristic of the markets going into the end of the year. Now, jumping into oil, we did break this 61.80ish level. We're still in an upwards trend line, but nothing breaking out higher. So we may just see it retrace a little bit and trade within a range. Okay, so that's what I would expect for the price of oil. Dow Jones, okay, like an animal at 28,635, like a beast, okay, not shedding anything, okay. We hit a high of 28,700 level, so we're only off of our highs by 70 points. Now, we may sell off, going into the beginning of next week, okay, or the latter of this week, okay, going into 2020, as things usually do, okay. Very characteristic of the market to end the year with a bang and then coming in next week just sell off. Now, we do have a couple of things coming up next month, okay, especially with the US and China relations, January 14th, I believe it is. So that's a major, event to anticipate, okay. So we may retrace right before that in anticipation that nothing happens, but we're hoping that everything does iron itself out. If we're looking at the stocks, JP Morgan still strong, 139. Google still strong on its highs or close to its highs by 10 points, okay. It is trading in multiples of thousands, so the fact that it's off by just 10 points is not a big deal. Now, jumping into Apple, we see it's really on its highs, okay. 289 hitting a 291-ish area. Remember, we had a 250 target for this year, and sure enough, we're much above it, okay. Really much above it, and the sky's still the limit, okay? To say that it's going to correct itself, it will correct itself. But I don't know when that is going to happen, okay? It's got to give me that confirmation first for me to start thinking shorting. Now, looking at Intel, this is an important stock, okay? And Intel is the hardware that goes into almost every computer, almost every mobile device, okay. So it's a really very important company, and if their shares are moving higher, it means that the market is buying more hardware, okay, the computers, the computer components, and so on and so forth. So the fact that it's breaking $60 a share, we haven't been in this area, like I've mentioned to you, since back in 2000, okay, where we hit $74 a share. Now, this is quite amazing, okay. I remember back here, okay, when people would go up on CNBC or one of these Bloombergs or whatever it was, they would say it would take about 10 years to make it back to these areas, okay, when it started really selling off down to $13 and $10 a share, okay, as bad as it was right here. Okay, now this gave you a tremendous opportunity to buy it, but sure enough, okay, it did take some time to get back to these levels. Okay, so $60 a share, we haven't been back here since 2000, so this is really almost 20 years in the making. Instead of 10 years to come back to itself, it took 20 years to come back to itself. It still has upwards momentum. That's the point of what I'm trying to drive here, so just be aware of it as we go into next year. Now, I did present a year in review of 2019 and a 220 outlook. You should be able to see it on our YouTube channel. Okay, so take a look at that as well as I discuss some of the stocks going into next year. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.